Welcome back, everyone, to the Doctoral Career Pathways Conference. Now, in the first session, we explored 6 major doctoral career paths, and
I
now we will
want to
take a
remind
deeper
you
look
if
in
you
how
do
to
have
gain experience
access
related
to
to
some
these career
supplemental
paths.
I will now turn it over to our presenter for Gain Experience, Katie Pieper, who is a member of the Career Services Advising Team, and she'll give us some more information. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Angie. Welcome, everyone. During this session, we will explore opportunities to gain experience and discover professional activities related to the pathways. Finally, we will spotlight 2 of our doctoral panelists who have experience in the organizational leadership and development and the policy and advocacy pathways. So to start us off, I want you to tell us what activities you have participated in that have helped you in your career. So please respond using the question feature. Okay, we have an internship, networking, major projects, more internships, research conference, the US DOE grant program, entry-level positions, mentorships, volunteering, lots of volunteering, publications, owning your own nonprofit, shadowing, let's see, pro bono consulting work, listserv of the APHA, appointment with Walden Career Services, thank you. Joining professional organizations, recently had a poster accepted for an academic conference, congratulations. Conducted classes at work, having a mentor in the field. Great, starting a private practice, seeking a postdoc position, joining boards, great. And mentoring newcomers, that's a great example, thank you. Let's see, Golden Key International Society and Laureate Education academic experience, awesome. Teaching, multidisciplinary mentoring, scouting out journals for publication, great. One person who was on a global team that rolled out a safety integration program for our organization, that's awesome. Walden student organizations, great. Well, thank you all for sharing your experiences. So now let's talk about some of these activities in a little more detail. So one way to get more involved in your field that Denise mentioned earlier in our previous section is to join a professional group or association. Professional organizations are centered around a specific discipline, with some more specific or in-depth than others. There are also many levels of professional organizations, as some have smaller local or state chapters, while others are larger international groups. Do your research when looking for organizations to identify what options are available and what will fit your needs best. Smaller local chapters are great for getting started with networking in your local area. To find professional organizations within your discipline, you can use the Professional Association Lookup feature on the Career One Stop website, as well as look for groups on LinkedIn. You can also do a simple Google search. So listed on this slide are a few examples of professional associations for each of the pathways, but there are many more. So here are some important reasons to join a professional organization. Involvement with professional organizations can assist your transition from student to professional in a number of ways. Establishing your brand and reputation in your field. Involvement lets others know that you are serious about your work. Significantly enhancing your network. Networking can lead to collaboration with colleagues in other companies or organizations on system-wide problems. Similarly, involvement in an organization can keep you connected to other leaders in the field, with opportunities for mentoring, which many of you mentioned. Volunteering or taking on a leadership position within the organization can help you get involved with and give back to your field. Organizations may provide opportunities for research or networking that can lead to research opportunities. Listservs within organizations can notify you of openings within your field that may be a great fit or help you grow in your profession. Organizational newsletters can keep you informed of the latest news, knowledge, and trends. Some associations can also provide discounts for members on resources or workshops to gain new skills or competencies. Many associations offer conferences, which are great opportunities for leadership, scholarship, professional development, and networking. Speaking of conferences, professional conferences are a great way to network with others and share your academic work and expertise. Organizations often hold a conference once a year, so identify what time of year the organizations you are interested in have theirs. Plan ahead if you are interested in presenting, and also reach out to see if anyone wants to present with you. Brainstorm topics that you may want to present, and ensure that your topic fits with the organization's mission and vision, and tie it to the conference theme if there is one. Typically, conferences will ask for proposals a few months in advance of the conference, and there may be a variety of formats to choose from, such as presentations, workshops, facilitating a roundtable or panel discussion, and poster sessions. If writing and communications plays a significant role in your career pathway, get involved with writing early on. When writing professionally, consider your target audience. Are you writing for scholars or practitioners in your field? Depending on the outlet, you must also be able to adjust your style to the intended audience. Professional or academic journals will be research-based with a more scholarly target audience. As a doctoral student, you are used to writing for academics about research, so this type of writing may feel more familiar. For a slightly less formal experience in writing, you could also look into writing for your professional association newsletter. This type of writing would blend the audience of scholars and practitioners, allowing you to go more in-depth on subjects while not including as much formal research information as a journal article. Popular media, such as magazines and newspapers, may also be an option for submitting articles. But since these outlets are more widely read, remember that your audience may only have a basic level understanding of your topic. Starting a blog is a great way to showcase samples of your ideas. Your own professional blog could lead to being featured on a mainstream blog within your field. A social media account for your professional writing can help bring viewers to your blog, establishing your reputation as a professional writer in your field. Also look into freelancing as an editor or reviewer for a journal or other platform. 3 other major ways you can gain some experience in your field are job shadowing, volunteering, and internships, which I know many of you mentioned earlier. Job shadowing is observing someone in a position that you are interested in. This can be good for a short term to ensure that this is the position you are interested in pursuing and see how it would fit within your career. Job shadowing is especially helpful for making a career transition, as you can see what the field is like firsthand. If you are interested in doing a job shadow, you will need to reach out to someone in the field and ask if you are able to shadow them for a short period of time. Next, we will talk a little about volunteering. Volunteering with an organization in your field or doing a project related to your career goals offers the opportunity to gain experience and new skills. At the start of volunteering, you may not be doing exactly what you want, But as people within the organization get to know you, your skills, dedication, and that you are reliable, you may be offered more opportunities to grow. Volunteering also allows you to try out new areas in your field and gain new perspectives. For example, a doctoral student with a K-12 teaching background may want to try volunteering in an adult literacy program to gain experience teaching adults. Volunteering can also help build confidence and open doors. A couple of other examples of potential volunteer ideas are volunteering with a cause you are passionate about, whether it's environmental or working with children, especially if your focus is policy and advocacy. Volunteering as a copy editor to help with an organization's newsletter is a great way to use your strengths in writing and editing. If you are looking for an opportunity that is a little more structured, a great way to get your foot in the door is through an internship. So identify what kinds of organizations and companies you want to work with long term. Do they have an organized internship program? Some organizations will, but many do not. In those cases, you may need to reach out to them directly, as you will have to create an opportunity for yourself. In cases like this, you will need to do some extra preparation, such as brainstorming ways you can use your skills to assist them on a project or a problem that they may be facing at the moment. So how does hands-on experience help? Getting involved in your field can help you test the waters before you fully commit, especially if you are making a drastic career change. You also have the chance to learn the culture of the workplace and manage your expectations of what it will be like. Experience also helps you gain field-related skills and discover what your strengths are. You can then add these skills and strengths to your resume and highlight them. Finally, getting involved helps you make connections with others, which can help when you are looking for a position. When looking to find hands-on experience, there are some things you should consider first. What is your future job target? Make sure that the experience you are looking for will be a step in that direction. What skills do you need to gain or improve? If you need public speaking experience, look for opportunities that will help you gain that. If you need more experience with leadership, take on a leadership role on a board, project, or even a volunteer group. And finally, where do you need to build your network? If you know that you want to work in nonprofit leadership, finding some experience with nonprofits, even if it is volunteer, can help you build connections. Let them know your skills and your goals, and your connections can help. So now I would like to hand it over to Dina Berggren to introduce our panelists for the leadership and organizational development and the policy and advocacy pathways.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome everyone. I would now like to introduce our first guest speaker, Dr. John Coy. Dr. Coy is a graduate of Walden's DBA program. He brings over 25 years of business management, professional leadership, corporate and university level educational development and training experience. Additionally, he has been successfully leading organizations from 50 to 500 personnel. And Dr. Coy's successes have covered a myriad of professional areas, including change management, strategic management, executive leadership development, quality assurance, standardization, emotional intelligence testing training, and programmatics. Dr. Coy is a certified change agent. He holds an advanced supply chain management certificate, is experienced in Lean Six Sigma principles, along with being project management professional trained. Welcome to the program, Dr. Coy.
Hi, Dina. Thank you for the warm welcome, and hello to everybody that dialed in.
Thank you for joining us. And to get us started, could you tell us a little bit more about your career path?
Hi, Dina, and all. Yes, I can. So I'll go back for 23 years. I flew in the Air Force and ended up as a operations officer. And I'll say that's where my passion for both leadership and learning and higher education started. Once I retired from the Air Force, I was building a house, and my community involvement and outreach started with supporting veterans that were either homeless or about to lose their homes, getting back into housing, and was very honored to help house 24 veteran families in 1 year. So it was part of my giving back several times over in the career. From there, I transitioned to higher education, applied for a program director position for a university, was accepted, and focused on operations, logistics, supply chain, and project management programs. While doing that, I started doing some consulting and worked with Fortune 100 companies in the DC Beltway, and through word of mouth and several successes, was able to broaden my consulting and carried on with that while I was pursuing my doctoral program with Walden. And then most recently, between everything I did there and completing a doctoral degree, I landed a global training and development manager position where I'm currently employed with Google.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And what strategies did you apply to gain experience in the organizational leadership and development pathway?
Well, I'm going to start first by giving a shout out to the creators of the slides in the presentation. There are some very solid tips and techniques already that's been presented in this program. I'll say I did many of the things that are already outlined. First of all, I went out and saw who is successful in areas that I find myself in the future, and how did they get to that point? What strategies did they use for success? And typically, their blogs, their social media, you can find their tips and pointers for success. I'll say on top of that, I took years building my professional portfolio, from credentialing and certifications to memberships, focusing on diverse items that I thought would set me apart from other candidates in the field, as well as engaging in areas of leadership and consulting. Being a certified change agent, being able to help organizations work through change, PMP, so project management, just different certificates that are sought after. If that's in an area that you want to be in, or that a company that you want to apply to that has, it just aids your portfolio as far as when you apply or when you show up for an interview, as far as what you can bring to the table along with your education. And there is where I believe a discriminator was for my current position, is completing my doctoral degree absolutely opened doors, and doors that I wasn't even looking to have open. And I think I'll close with that question, is have a passion for what you want to do. And my passion is lifelong learning. So if you're in the leadership, if you're in development, or if you're in organizational management type fields, have a passion for what you do, and don't stop studying and learning in that field.
Thank you, John. And what additional advice would you have for Walden doctoral students who are interested in organizational development and leadership? I know you had mentioned networking before, and also the importance of technology. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and share your advice?
Absolutely. Networking is, in today's technology connected world, building your network, both your in-person and your online, your social media, your LinkedIn, your your platform of choice, I would say spend some time doing that and engage in both the online and the offline professional activities. I've attended numerous conferences. I've been asked to speak at conferences. The internship is another great outlet, blogs. And then as far as technology, my piece there is with companies, especially global, you will be required to know technology in and out. Your go-to meetings, your Skype, Zoom, Google Hangouts, for any of the video conferencing. Need to have the experience as far as technology savvy with whether you're using PowerPoint or Sheets, or need to be able to work in and out of Excel and pivot tables, etc. Spreadsheets and even project management. If you're a program manager or leading teams, there's going to be some piece of project management. So there's a blend there, a blend between how you network internally, how you network externally, how you network online, and then bring the technology piece to that. And then I'll close with the question with seek out additional credentials. You'll never know when they may come in handy. I went through an organizational change, and being a change agent helped me work with a group of 42 and enable what we did with change. And then along with that, seek out the volunteer and the community outreach activities. You will absolutely never know who might be involved in the next employment selection.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coy. These are very valuable insights, and we really appreciate you taking time to share today. And next, I would like to introduce Dr. Amin Asfari. And Dr. Asfari earned his PhD in Public Policy and Administration from Walden. He is an associate professor in the Department of Criminal Justice at Wake Technical College, an adjunct professor of criminal justice and social science research methods at North Carolina Wesleyan College, and also teaches in the PhD program at Walden in the School of Public Policy and Administration. He has presented at multiple conferences, frequently lectures as an invited speaker on college campuses, and has published a refereed book chapter in Brill's Philosophy of Peace series, which is titled Two Semites Confront Anti-Semitism, as well as a journal article to be published in the International Review of Victimology. Dr. Asfari also co-authored a book titled Elders and Brothers, Jews and Muslims in the Conspiratorial Imagination, and recently edited a book titled Civility, Nonviolent Resistance, and the New Struggle for Social Justice. Welcome to the program, Dr. Asfari.
Hello, Dina. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Asfari. I'm doing great, and thank you for joining us. And to get us started, tell us more about your career path.
Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you for having me, and welcome to all the students out there and the staff and faculty members that may be joining us. It's a pleasure to be here. My path is started really with just, an average kid who went to college. So I went and earned my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, then my master's degree, all of them in criminal justice. Initially, I was considering a career in law enforcement. Was actually, hired by a local police department, and as I was going through the academy, it just so happened that was the time that I was accepted into the master's program at a local university. And the more I delved into the academic component of criminal justice, the more I fell in love with the research aspect, this notion that you can ask a question and actually find an answer or narrow it down as best as possible. Once I finished my master's, I started teaching at the community college level, which is great because it allowed me to really get exposure to higher education, the ins and outs of the academy, so to speak. And then I continued my academic learning at a land-based institution in sociology and criminology at a PhD program there. After a short while, due to funding issues and so forth, I decided to switch to Walden, which came recommended by a good friend. But I was also still very interested in pursuing the research, and so that was my drive, right? The publications, the writing, and so forth, the presenting at conferences. So before I applied, I spoke to the graduate director at the time, and I expressed my desire to do this, to publish with faculty members. And so what he said was, well, welcome aboard. And he in fact offered me a graduate assistant position at Walden, because that's where he was trying to take the department at the time. So I was very fortunate to work with faculty at the time very closely. I continue to do so. In fact, my committee members are also my close friends and colleagues at this time. We continue to publish together and present at conferences. Also, my career path is, even my dissertation topic was not necessarily dictated by my own volition, so to speak. My dissertation topic arises out of a local event that happened here in North Carolina, where I am, where a family member was actually essentially murdered in Chapel Hill, which later came out to be essentially an act of a hate crime, right? Islamophobia, so to speak. And so that's what really compelled me to engage in this topic and in this very sort of interesting and yet sometimes morbid issue of intergroup conflict and how society is shaped and formed, and specifically how public policy revolves around this. Program evaluations is essentially what I did for my own dissertation. From this, of course, I was also compelled to organize with other groups. So I helped to lead a group called the Raleigh Communities of Peace, which was a group of faith-based and non-faith-based leaders coming together, including, of course, members of the Muslim community, the Episcopalian Church, and others who were committed to improving policies and inclusion of Muslims and essentially non-Muslims alike, right? So, and to support that interest, I completed that dissertation on reducing Islamophobia on college campuses, which was essentially both a policy analysis as well as a program evaluation. And now I continue to publish. I have varied the interests, but generally they revolve around public policy and confronting multiculturalism and so forth. And I am now a faculty member, very happy to be a contributing faculty member at Walden.
Thank you, Dr. Asfari. It sounds like you used career strategies of getting involved in your community and also publishing and seeking out opportunities to be engaged in not only the research, but also in the community in policy and advocacy. And what advice would you have for other Walden doctoral students who are interested in policy and advocacy careers?
Again, just like my colleague John, I'd also like to give a shout out to all of you who've already addressed many of the very important lessons that should be heeded by some of the students in order to advance their own policy experience. Obviously, it goes without saying that someone needs to have a passion for a topic, and there's this notion that one needs to be absolutely objective, in addressing something for their own dissertation or their own research. To some degree, I beg to differ. There's this notion of criticizing everything but standing for nothing. And I think fundamentally the topic that's chosen for one's dissertation reflects some deep-seated interest. The key is to separate oneself empirically, that is to say, to ask the question and see where it takes you. But in terms of gaining the policy advocacy and so forth, based on that research topic, you will inform your study by looking at, and I hate to use the cliche, you'll be standing on the shoulders of giants, which means you'll be exposed to so much work and so much information that's being done in that particular field that you then can start to make connections, including but not limited to actually writing to the scholars in the field. I wrote to one of the scholars actually to use one of the scales that they were using, and we've become sort of good friends. That person had since retired, but they, in that discussion, they asked me what I was going to use the scale for, and I explained the situation, and they gave me so many helpful resources, essentially, to confront this, becoming sort of an advocate as well as a scholar, right? So you certainly rely on those resources. Moreover, if one has an interest, it's assumed that, at the local level, at least, that these organizations, the grassroots organizations dealing with your interest, are out there. So reaching out to them, being involved, right? So the organization that I helped co-start, the Raleigh Communities of Peace, was something that didn't exist. It was essentially a gap, not in the literature, but a gap in practice. And so we identified that and decided to do something about it. And so that's one way to do it. The other, of course, is something that you guys mentioned, which is attending the conferences, attending these national or local, and I do want to say that was a great comment, because they tend to be cheaper, more practical. You don't have to fly out or drive out and so on. It's generally very local, regional, that is. Attending those conferences, and there you do the networking, because there not only do you see the scholars, but you also see some of the people that are presenting from their own nonprofits dealing with the issue that you're confronting, and that's where you can learn a lot. And for me, of course, teaching also expands my horizon as to the policy arena related to my own interests, because my teaching interests fall in line with my own research interests generally. And so, the best way to learn something is to teach it. And when you do, you become more and more connected, and not being afraid to really go out there and network and really put yourself out there, feeling vulnerable, but rest assured you'll be satisfied at the end, because those connections are very, very meaningful and hopefully long-lasting.
Dr. Asfari, thank you so much for this great advice and for sharing your story and the work that you've been doing, research and in the community. And now I would like to hand it over to Angie to field our questions.
Thank you.
All right. All right, everyone, it is time for questions. And remember, you can address your questions to Dr. Foy, Dr. Asfari, to our presenter, Katie. And we actually have a question right away for Dr. Coy. Teresa is inquiring about the certified change agent. She's wondering, how do you become certified as a change agent, and what prompted you to do that?
Hi, Teresa. Great question. And I was in an organization that was going through transformational change, a complete 180 for the way they were doing business. I knew that it was coming. I was asked to do it, and I searched out how to enact change in large organizations, and I found one of the schools. I believe mine was I think one of 3 or 4, but it was actually becoming a certified change agent. So I would just do a quick go search, and you'll see there's a couple of universities out there. I'm not certain if Walden has one or not, but you can pick up a certificate in change.
Thank you. And we also have a question for Dr. Asfari. Are there popular or preferred media that you use for publishing in the area of public policy? And do you have some general advice for scholars that are looking to publish?
Absolutely. Dina mentioned a couple of my publications. I'm looking now, actually, my colleague from Texas A&M and I are working on a project looking at Muslim attitudes toward law enforcement, and we're looking at it from a policy standpoint. So we're looking at it from a criminal justice policy journal perspective. So generally, you'll want to identify, of course, the topic, and once you do, you start to sort of dig into the literature, and there, of course, you'll find where these papers are being published, and that's a good thing. There are broad public policy, public administration journals, depending on your interest, like, for example, ASPA, the American Society of Public Administration, which is, of course, a good top-tier journal that's, very rigorous methodologically and so forth, that you can look at. But again, I would venture to say that the best way to identify an outlet is to identify your question first, or the topic that you want to confront. Once you do that, the literature should take you down that rabbit hole, so to speak, and you can identify venues for publication by looking at the resources.
Excellent, thank you. We have a question for Katie. Leslie asked, are there opportunities to shadow in higher education, and how would you go about getting those?
Yeah, thank you for the great question. I do know of some students who have done job shadowing within higher education with a professor, and typically it is a professor that they have networked with or known maybe from, obviously with Walden, it would all be online, but if you were wanting one in person, maybe from your master's or your undergraduate degree, somebody that you connected with very well, and approaching them and asking them if you can maybe sit in on some courses, sit in with them when they're grading or preparing for courses, so that you can kind of see the back end of things as well as the actual course, and just letting them know what you want to learn. Go into it with a goal of not just, well, I want to watch you, but what kinds of things do you want to see? Do you want to see the whole process or specific aspects of the position?
Excellent. And we have one more question for you, Katie. Zoya Gay asked, do you recommend getting your CV professionally written?
I would recommend working with us in career services, also using Optimal Resume, which we will cover in the next section. But I would not have it professionally written, as sometimes the templates make it very hard to edit and very hard to tailor to specific positions. So I would, create it on your own, or with one of us here in career services, we can assist you in giving you feedback. But I wouldn't have it professionally written when we have such great resources here.
So Angelina had a great question that I'm going to direct to Katie regarding think tanks. Do you have any specific advice for people who are interested in positions at think tanks?
Sure. I know that in our supplemental materials, there is a link to the NIRA or NIRA's World Directory of Think Tanks. So there is information in our supplemental materials that I would recommend looking at, but I also would recommend thinking about what your values are and what your goals are, because some think tanks may have, a separate agenda, so make sure that they match your goals and your values.
So this is kind of an interesting question from Valerie for both of our presenters. Maybe Dr. Coy can go first. How did you manage work-life balance as you were moving your career forward in your respective fields?
That is an absolute great question, and something that will take time to develop. I did it via a very dedicated schedule. I launched that schedule with collaboration with my family, both my spouse, children, and my external family, friends, etc. And I saw what worked at first and what didn't work, and then I readjusted my schedule. And after that, I'll be very honest, and this is for everybody, I religiously followed that schedule as I was working through work, as I was working through my degree program, and it took sacrifice. At the end of the day, something has to go if you're going to pursue a doctoral degree, and stick with it. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You'll be done, but build a schedule that works, and be sure that you put some time in that schedule for yourself, your family, and you're just going to need a break, and then hit the schedule again as it starts the next week.
Excellent. How about you, Dr. Asfari?
Yeah, my story is a little bit unorthodox in that I was already teaching, and so as an academic, we tend to have a little bit more of a flexible schedule. So I dedicated a lot more time to my dissertation than perhaps somebody who works a 9-to-5 job or maybe an evening shift or some such thing. Moreover, I had access to the resources. So I had, beyond the Walden resources, I also had access to institutions where I was working, such as a local university, which is an R1 research university, a very intensive research university with a very robust library. So I would go there often, spent many nights there, in fact, in the library. So though I did have more time to dedicate to the dissertation, I actually stuck to it. As Dr. Coy was saying, meaning that I made sure that I got something accomplished at the end of every week. And as a result, I was able to actually finish my dissertation in 3 quarters and defend on the 4th. But that is atypical, and that's because I had the convenience and the luxury of sort of working in the field, having some bit of background academically and so forth.
Excellent. We have another question for both presenters. So again, we'll start with Dr. Coy. What advice would you give someone who is looking to market the benefits of having a Walden degree specifically?
Another great question, and I would focus on the pillar of social change. Right. So Walden absolutely prides themselves on that. I have a belief in that, and we do a lot of good through social change. So market yourself through your degree program, not just a great institution to get a degree from, but one that has a solid backing in social change.
Excellent. How about you, Dr. Asfari?
Yeah, speaking again in the academic realm, if you're going for an academic position, in fact, you have a leg up, generally speaking, over other candidates, because you've experienced what a lot of institutions are trying to do now, which is teaching online. So you've experienced the student part of it. You know if there are any things that you would change in the classroom, or any ways that you would address, for example, the faculty interaction with classrooms. You might want to incorporate more technology and so forth. And so you certainly want to highlight that as a strength, because a lot of the brick and mortar institutions are developing their own online colleges, and they're definitely pushing for more online presence.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for answering all these questions, and thank you for everyone for having such wonderful questions. We're now going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to hear from Katie one more time about strategies for marketing your skills and qualifications, and we'll also hear from 2 more of our great guest speakers. Have an excellent break, and we will see you at the top of the hour, and we'll see you back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.